over the past few days, the news coverage of what's going on in Israel and Palestine, there have been the normal sort of mainstream media attempts to pitch this with the sort of vague, cowardly, squirrely language that leads you to imagine two armies fighting in the streets, which is very much not what's going on. But thankfully, there have been some attempts to correct this language. So I want to go to a clip that sort of gets into this topic.
And look, one word you hear a lot when you cover Israel-Palestine is the word clashes. There are clashes between Israelis and Palestinians in Jerusalem tonight. And I get it, it's journalistic shorthand often, but it's a word personally I cannot stand. These are not clashes. In Jerusalem, one side, not the other, is firing rubber-coated steel bullets. One side, not the other, has hundreds of people injured and in hospital tonight. One side, not the other, is having its holy sites raided. And don't get me wrong, there is violence from the Palestinian side too. The rockets out of Gaza today, courtesy of Hamas, for example, which should be condemned as well, especially when they're targeted at Israeli civilians. But the fundamental, unavoidable reality at the heart of this conflict is that there is an asymmetry of power here. One side is the occupier, the other side is occupied. And media coverage, political commentary, international interventions that don't reflect this central fact, the fact of illegal occupation of the West Bank of East Jerusalem, are all, I'm sorry to say, part of the problem.
Yep. Some of them, perhaps, as he said, just journalistic shorthand. Maybe it's ignorance, they're not thinking about it. But others, I mean, we've been through this too many times, Dan. They know what they're doing. They're making it seem as if it's like this equal, two forces just equally battling it out, which is very much not.
Yeah, and John, I'm usually very quick to jump on a lot of the bad faith actors out there who will take opportunities and tragedies like these and like spend them again in bad faith and use like immediate terms and targets like anti-Semitism when they'll also in the same segments claim that people are using the term racist too much when like it's all oppression. We want to be against oppression. Are you pro-oppression or against oppression? Like that should be the main focus. So I'm not even gonna like give them more of my time than even that little illusion. I think, it's just really, this is terrible, and we need to have like a really stark conversation in the Biden administration, especially considering that, it's not Biden's fault, but this is after the Trump administration, and such an enabling was given to Netanyahu and the right-wing government that he is also trying to spend to his own right wing and his part and his country, because he's facing snap elections year after year after year trying to stay in power, right? So this continuous appeal to right-wing nationalism across the world has to be cut off somewhere. And like, I'm not one for American imperialism. I hope that Biden keeps his word in pulling troops out of Afghanistan. But this is a mess that the US has been like throwing money into. I think this is something that the US should be like involved in working to clean up in a peaceful way that allows, I think, both Israelis and Palestinians to have autonomy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's quite reasonable. And I want to skip ahead just to give you one quote from Linda Sarsour, who's been on the program before. She said, "What we're seeing aren't clashes. What we're seeing is the oppression of an apartheid state against people engaged in peaceful worship during the holiest nights of the year for Muslims around the world." And that's how it started. It has gotten obviously far worse since then. God only knows what we'll be talking about in regards to this story tomorrow or the next day, or God help us by Friday. But right now, this is what's going on. And like we said, there can be a distinction. There should be a distinction. Some people use terminology without thinking about it. And I don't want to seem like a woke, insufferable brat or anything, but I don't think it's a terrible thing to occasionally have your casual use of conversation checked and corrected. In the same way that, like the stimulus payments, people talking about how that's a terrible way to talk about what the need for these are. They should be term survival payments, or referring to effectively white gangs and sometimes white terrorist groups as militias because that's what they prefer to be called. These are things that we can think about and we can evolve and change over time.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.